Well, Ukraine and Russia are blaming each other for plotting to attack Europe's biggest nuclear power plant, Zaporizhzhia, which is located in southeastern Ukraine. It has been occupied by Russian troops since last March. Now, according to the Associated Press, the Ukrainian president, Volodymyr Zelensky, has said in a speech on Tuesday night, quote, "The only source of danger to the nuclear power plant is Russia and no one else," citing his country's latest intelligence, alleging that Russians actually placed objects that look like explosives on the roofs of several of the power units, possibly with the intent of simulating an attack and blaming it on Ukraine.
And in Russia, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov raised the possibility of a potentially catastrophic provocation by the Ukrainian army at the nuclear power plant. When answering reporters' questions, Peskov said the situation is quite tense. There was a great threat of sabotage by the Kyiv regime, which can be catastrophic in its consequences.
Director of the International Atomic Energy Agency, Rafael Mariano Grossi, said it had so far not seen any indications of mines or explosives, but had requested additional access to parts of the plant in order to confirm that. Meanwhile, Zelensky is pushing President Biden for an invite to NATO. Let's listen.
The U.S. decide today whether Ukraine will get invited to NATO. This is today's situation, and it's a fact. The majority of the NATO countries support inviting Ukraine to NATO. Those who have their doubts look only at President Biden, and he knows that this depends on him. It will be his decision.
So he has a decision to make coming into
this
weekend.
Yes, for today, yes. He is a decision maker for today to be Ukrainian NATO or not to be. But we have great relations. So he support our future in NATO. But we are speaking now about very, very important for motivation of our soldiers fact. Mm-hmm. No, invitation, just technical thing, just wording. Invitation, right. Ukraine to NATO.
Right. Not down the line, now.
Now. It's very important. It will push Russia. It will push our soldiers to the occupation quicker because of the mobilization of the people.
So this nuclear power plant situation is very concerning. I'm not really put at ease by experts saying that it doesn't seem like it could leak or cause that much damage. That's not very mollifying to me. It's under Russian control now.
Yes.
And the argument, the dispute is either party actually threatening to do something to it. Russia right now being blamed by Zelensky, saying something could happen there, and Russia saying, no, but are we being set up in a kind of like false flag environment if Ukraine actually does something?
Yeah. So both sides have claimed that the other is going to weaponize this nuclear power plant. Ukrainians have alleged that Russians have put what look like to them, what they are alleging are bombs on the roof of the building. Some experts have said that that doesn't make a lot of sense from a strategic perspective. If you wanted to detonate a nuclear reactor, you would put the bombs closer to where the nuclear materials actually were, as opposed to on the roof, and that there is some possibility that what is being observed on the roof is some kind of radar detection to detect incoming. Obviously, as we heard, Grossi, the nuclear inspector, has inspected the plant and said there's no evidence of any sabotage, any bombs being placed. Although it has not yet been granted access to the roof, it needs to have that access to determine what actually has been placed up there. Others have pointed out that Russia has put the nuclear power plant in safe mode, shutting down, I think, 4 of the 5 reactors, in a move that one might say indicates an interest in safety and not having the plant explode or be weaponized in any way. There is also people who've weighed in who've said strategically it doesn't make a lot of sense for Russia because the bulk of the nuclear fallout would come in the Donbass territories, which it has claimed
to,
and wants to be, where these Russian speakers, ethnic Russians are, which has been the whole core of this debate, and also threatens the Crimean water supply, again, Russian-controlled territories. And also, people have been scrutinizing interviews by Zelensky where he goes as far as calling for kind of a preemptive nuclear attack by NATO on Russia. So Obviously both sides are making these claims. We don't know who is accurate. If maybe no one at all is actually trying to threaten the power plant, and they're each just trying to get some kind of reaction.
But no one's actually threatening it. Yeah.
Yeah, but people are, particularly concerned about Zelensky and his motives, because it does seem that there's a pattern in a lot of the things that he is saying, which are trying to escalate the potential of nuclear conflict in a way that he, I'm sure, hopes prevents Russia from going any farther, but which brings the whole world closer to an actual nuclear engagement, including joining NATO immediately or asking the West to preemptively engage in a nuclear attack on Russia.
Which reflects the fact that Ukraine is in a more desperate position than Russia, so its leader is the one who is going to be engaged in behavior, military-related behavior that seems potentially reckless.
Yeah.
For all the trying to, and which is totally contrary to how the media, the mainstream media in the U.S. has tried to portray Vladimir Putin as insane or as a madman, totally unmoored from realpolitik or actual strategic tactical decisions. That doesn't actually appear to be the case.
Yeah.
He's waging this a war to take part of the country of Ukraine, or to have it not be part of Ukraine, either independent or part of Russia, a part of the country where there is some actual dispute among the people who live there for what nation they would rather be a part of. And again, the invasion is wrong. It is unconscionable. It is illegal. But it is not. You can say whatever you want about it. It's not the product of a syphilitic medieval king or something, just like executing people at random or something.
Right.
It's part of the Russian strategy. Now, with respect to joining NATO, I mean, I understand. I think even if you're very against it, you have to understand why Zelensky, from the standpoint of Ukrainian leadership, it would see, they want greater protection. They want greater U.S. Western European involvement. I understand why they want NATO to be part of NATO. I think if that resulted as a part of a peace agreement with Russia, whereby this can't happen again because now Ukraine is going to be part of NATO, and Russia gets something so we can end this war. We have independence for the Donbas region, or they vote on which nation they want to be part of. Something like that happens. They agree to that. And then the rest of Ukraine will be protected going forward. I could totally understand that. Mm-hmm. But in the midst of this actual active ongoing war, Ukraine joining NATO now would just mean a direct. Either we have to hope that Vladimir Putin will immediately back off because of that, or we have to accept that this will bring us closer to World War III than anything that's ever happened in decades.
And remember, there can be accidental escalations.
For sure.
And we've already had several of those moments already. It's not just they can join, Ukraine will join NATO and Russia will back off.
Yeah.
There is an ongoing conflict. And even if, one missile hits somebody's plane, one soldier gets killed by somebody, then the consequences of that are just so much greater for the entire world. And I think that is a pressing concern. Now, former GOP congressman and CNN commentator Adam Kinzinger commented on Twitter, "I certainly hope that if Russia is stupid enough to blow the nuclear power plant, every single living Russian soldier or Russian piece of equipment in Ukraine becomes extremely destroyed by NATO." Journalist Glenn Greenwald responded to Kinzinger, tweeting, "These insane fantasies would obviously cause a nuclear war, but whatever, let's roll the dice on humanity. It's been around long enough, and it's time to start taking more risks with its existence. That's how vital is the question of who governs provinces in eastern Ukraine." Obviously, a lot of sarcasm there. And here is former President Donald Trump calling for an end to the conflict.
We must demand the immediate negotiation of a peaceful end to the war in Ukraine, or we will end up in World War III, and there will be nothing left of our planet, all because stupid people didn't have a clue. They didn't have a clue. They really don't understand. I rebuilt our military. I rebuilt our nuclear power. They don't understand what they're dealing with, the power of nuclear.
I think that's the first part of that, at least, a correct sentiment. Obviously, I would want to hear more from Donald Trump about what he will actually do to facilitate that peace talk. I appreciate that that's not even the Joe Biden doesn't even really gesture at the idea he put forward there, that what can we do immediately to have peace talks.
It's the emphasis is on supporting Ukraine.
Whatever it takes, no matter the cost, for as long as it takes.
And I agree with you, there's a lack of specificity here with Donald Trump and with a lot of what he says, generally speaking, but having the instinct to say the risks are enormously high and the emphasis should be on preventing nuclear conflict, as opposed to the emphasis should be on helping Ukraine at any cost, helping them save face, even if it means both countries go up in a nuclear ball. That people are going to read Donald Trump's instincts as the right ones and be inclined toward his foreign policy approach, even if it's lacking in specificity and is all bravado.
Not inclined toward the foreign policy of Adam Kinzinger, who's picturing himself with the Infinity Gauntlet. You can't just snap your fingers and all the Russian forces disintegrate on the battlefield. We're talking very serious global consequence. Obviously, if Russia were to actually do that, that would be horrific. That would be evil. That would be dangerous for the entire world. It's not just like, oh, it's only bad if Ukraine or something does it. It's bad if anyone does it. And we need to take immediate diplomatic steps to minimize the likelihood of either side purposely or accidentally or in an effort to blame the other or for whatever reason taking actions that threaten humanity itself.
Yeah, look, I don't think you can overstate the risks here and how the nuclear clock has got to be fractions of a second from zero. It's a very serious situation. It's the reason why nuclear war is trending on Twitter right now. And we'll, of course, continue to follow this very tense situation and some of the media reporting on it and how kind of inconsistent some of that has been as this plays out. More Rising for you after this.